this episode, we're going to learn about white wines, such as Sauvignon Blanc, Riesling, Gewurtztraminer, and Chardonnay. And I'm going to speak to some of British Columbia's top winemakers and grape growers to find out once and for all, what's better, stainless steel fermentation or oak barrels? Which food goes with which wine? And how does Canada's only classified desert help create world-class cool climate whites? Join me as I explore my own backyard. Welcome to Canada. Welcome to Wine Sense. So Mesa, I know we're 500 feet above sea level here. How does that affect the grapes?
Well, this is a really unique site in the valley. We're high above the valley floor, and we get really great air drainage. So not only do we have a longer growing season, we also have these sort of cooler daytime and nighttime temperatures. This allows the vines to produce grapes with higher acidity and develop more concentrated flavors.
And how does that acidity translate into the finished product?
Well, really, aromatic whites, all of them usually tend to have a bit of residual sugar to them. And when you have a good balance of sugar and acidity, it makes for a more balanced and an easier drinking wine. And when you can keep the natural acidity in the grapes, it's just that much better.
Now, when we get these grapes into the winery, are we talking oak barrels? Are we talking stainless steel?
All of our aromatic white varieties will all be stainless steel fermented. We like to keep them sort of a fresher, just let the fruit driven sort of style come through. So all stainless steel fermented, nice cool ferments, long ferments, and just preserve that great character.
And what kind of flavor characteristics are we going to be looking at say, a Riesling that you're going to produce?
Our Riesling, there's a real interesting style of a BC Riesling. It's very fruit driven. It's sort of unlike any style anywhere in the world. We don't get a lot of the petrol-y sort of diesely nose that some Rieslings will get in the world. It's more of this sort of fruit forward, big green apple, sort of a Macintosh apple maybe, something like that, a bit of citrus that can come through.
It sounds delicious. And then a Riesling base that's up here at 500 feet, how's that going to vary different from one at the valley floor?
Well, definitely you'll have more of a slower sort of ripening period, so you'll have more of these flavors that'll come on later as the grapes mature, just a bit more concentrated fruit.
One thing I like to ask everyone that I run into is, say you're drinking a bottle of your Riesling, what's your favorite food to go with it?
Definitely like Asian cuisine, and Riesling is fantastic. So anything with a bit of spice to it. You have the sugar and the acidity from the Riesling, and it's just a great balance with sort of a spicier dish.
I agree. Some of that residual sugar for me works very well with some smokiness. And when I think smoke, I think barbecue, I think maybe something fun out on the patio like a pulled pork sandwich. I wonder if there's something like that around here that we could enjoy.
You might be able to find one.
Yeah? Let's go check it out. Someone here to chase us out of the vineyard. What's the gun sound?
There's many different techniques for keeping birds out of your vineyard, and this is the time of year when the birds are feeding on all the grapes. So we use the bird bangers, and we also have flares that we'll shoot off. It can be quite noisy.
So there's no need to look for cover?
No, I think we're quite safe.
Okay. So definitely this wine is exhibiting what you were talking about up in the vineyard. It's got that lifted Granny Smith apple, floral, pineapple, just beautiful Riesling. The one thing that I love so much about aromatics, and in particular in BC, is they're so food friendly. We've got Gewurtztraminer, Riesling, Ehrenfelser, Pinot Gris, and when you've got sliced hams, focaccia, some roasted vegetables, some wonderful cheeses as well, and all the way down to this smoky pulled pork sandwich, aromatics, if there's a king of food-friendly wines, it's got to be those.
I would agree.
Beautiful. Well, you know what? Thanks so much, Mason, for having me up here. See you later, Ranch. Beautiful views, wonderful vineyard, and I really think you did a great job here on the Riesling. Cheers.
Cheers.
There are a number of different white wine styles out there, and one reason for this is different winemaking techniques, such as stainless steel fermentation versus oak aging. Stainless steel we see used with aromatic whites, such as Gewürztraminer, Riesling, and Sauvignon Blanc. We find that the cool steel helps preserve the crispness and acidity of these wines and allows them to show their true colors. Oak aging is something we see far more often with Chardonnay, as it is a fairly neutral grape which has a tendency to take on the flavors of whatever it sits in, such as hot buttered toast, caramel, and popcorn. So you can see that these techniques produce varied white wines, and it's up to you to decide which one is best for you. Here I am with Troy Osborne, Chief Viticulturalist at Jackson Triggs Estate Winery. And we're going to learn a little bit about grapes.
There's a lot of time and effort that goes into the vineyard prior to this time of the year, which is essentially ripeness. So these grapes are, for all intents and purposes, are ready to go. But long before that, we're in the vineyard, we're pruning the grapevines. That's the first thing that we do. Generally, we start that in the dead of winter, around the 1st of January. We'll be in here and prune back the grapevine. So after pruning, when the buds start to grow early May, we'll come through and do what we call shoot thinning. The vine being a vine, it doesn't always do what you want it to do. It'll grow extra shoots, and we'll have to go through and remove those ones that weren't intended to be left.
You are in complete control of what's going to happen with this guy by the time the grapes are picked.
As much as Mother Nature will allow us to control, we're in control, yeah. I mean, the other beautiful thing about the South Okanagan is the soils are very light. And the soils actually will allow very good drainage. And our vineyards are irrigated. I mean, they have to be irrigated. We're only really in the South Okanagan here, we're about 10 inches of precipitation a year. Because they're so free draining, they allow us to control the growth of the vine through irrigation. So if the vine starts to get out of control, we can just throttle the water back a little bit and get it to slow down.
Wow. How can you tell as a vineyard manager when the grapes are ripe?
Well, I mean, taste is the big thing, but actually there's a few other little tricks. If you pull off a grape, and if you squish that in your hand, the seeds will pop out. And you'll notice the seeds actually come away fairly easily from the pulp. That's one sign of that the seeds are ripe. When the seeds are ripe, the berries are ripe.
Well, you know what? I'm going to try one of these guys, because if you say they're ripe, I want to try and taste. It's amazing. When I taste this grape, I can imagine the wine it's going to turn into. As a Sauvignon Blanc, I get some of that natural acidity and a nice crunch from the skin and a little bit of that grassiness. This is true Sauvignon Blanc. Sure makes me want to go and drink a bottle somewhere.
Yeah, do me a favor and tell the winemaker that, will you? I think it's ready to be pulled off too.
Let's get him out here. Troy, thank you so much for having me here as your guest. These vineyards are beautiful, the grapes were amazing, and not to mention the wine, not too shabby either.
Cheers.
Cheers. I'm here at Cedar Creek Estate Winery with Gordon Fitzpatrick. Beside us is a press with 8,000 pounds of Gewurtztraminer in it, slowly being pressed to make some beautiful wine. Gordon, what is it about British Columbia that makes such great cool climate whites?
Well, it is our climate. Some people like to try and categorize this as cool climate viticulture, but we're really extreme viticulture, something what we call continental, where the extremes of our summer temperatures contrasted to the cold in the winter makes for some very special conditions. So we have these long, hot summer days, which ripens the fruit, and then we have a natural cold soak in the fall.
And aromatics in particular, which are some of my favorites, Riesling, Gewurztraminer. I know you do a great job with those. How do they fare out here?
Extremely well, because really those are meant to be fresh, crisp, nice acidity, and we have that in spades here in the northern part of the Okanagan Valley. It's ideal for those Okanagan aromatics.
And I know your policy with those grapes is hands off. They're simple. You just want to really make grape juice and let the people enjoy them.
They're all just 100% stainless steel tank fermented because we want to promote the fresh, crisp, lively fruit flavors that we work so hard in the vineyards for.
Another thing I love about BC wines are the Chardonnays. I think we do a fantastic job here. What is it about the climate, and what is it that you do to make a BC identity Chardonnay?
Well, I think the key to Chardonnay is making sure that you've got the fruit that comes through. Chardonnay has often been maligned because of over-oaking and that type of thing. We like the oak influence because we feel that it gives it a middle, but first and foremost, we want to promote those great flavors. The Okanagan is world-renowned for its orchards, and great Chardonnay here has wonderful apple and pear notes, and that's what we want to promote. What better way to end the week with a glass of Chardonnay and crab?
Dungeness crab and Chardonnay, that sounds amazing. As a matter of fact, it's making me a little bit thirsty. And I think we're still a few hours away on this Gewurtztraminer being ready. Do you have a bottle somewhere else that we can have a taste of?
Absolutely. I think we've talked about it long enough, so let's go see what's in the bottle.
Here, here. Gordon, thanks so much for being such a wonderful host and having us here at Cedar Creek. I really enjoyed talking about cool climate whites, and in particular aromatics like Gewurztraminer. And this one here, this is a heck of a wine. Cheers.
Cheers, Tom. Great to have you.
Ageability of white wine. Unfortunately, there's no hard and fast rule. It depends on many different factors, including the fruit in the wine, the acid, the alcohol, and the influence of oak. All these have to come together as well in a perfect harmony to create a wonderfully ageable wine. The good news is, though, most consumers these days are looking for everyday drinking wine, and winemakers have noticed. And although there are still some wines around the world that are ageable for a long, long time, on the whole, that bottle you just purchased is probably ready to go. So call a friend and crack it open. I'm here at Mission Hill Family Estate with winemaker John Symes, and we're talking cool climate whites. Now, John, what is it about British Columbia that has the ability to produce such great white wines?
It's a combination of the heat that we get in July and August. We get really warm in the vineyards, so we get the sugar development and the flavour development in the berries. But as we move into the fall, the temperatures drop, and so we retain the acidity in the grapes. So we get the heat in the summer to develop the sugar and the flavours, cooler nights in the falls and retain the acidity, and that's what you're looking for in a white grape, is the balance between the two. We get it every year here in BC.
Now, there are a few who may argue that BC isn't even truly cool climate when you compare it to, say, Champagne or New Zealand. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree. In fact, one of the things that I say to people is British Columbia is a short, warm climate. Before I came to British Columbia, my winemaking career was in Marlborough, New Zealand. And if we got 31, 32 degrees during the day, we'd think, the world was coming to an end. Global warming, horror. Well, here in BC, if we don't get into the low 40s in July and August, where that would be unusual, right? So it's completely different to what I think of as a cool climate. It's short. For a short period of time we get really hot, and then for a short period of time we get really cold. But it's not what I would call a cool climate at all.
And I know you're a humble gentleman. However, a number of years ago, one of your wines took home an award that probably changed the face of BC and Canadian wine altogether.
Well, we were very fortunate. We won the trophy for the best Chardonnay in the world in 1994. And I think it was the first really big award that a Canadian wine had won, or a British Columbia wine anyway. It gave the people in the industry a lot of confidence to go and invest and plant more vineyards and buy more barrels. Yeah, it was a big milestone for us and for the valley.
It's got to be exciting, being such a young industry, to be a part of so many firsts. And continuing to strive for more awards, I know you're working on other Chardonnays, and this looks like a brand new one, the Perpetua?
Yeah, this is brand new. Yeah, we did the first year we did this was 2006. It's all from a vineyard we planted in 1996 in the Soyuz. 3 different clones of Chardonnay right down on the US border, partially barrel fermented, and we should have a taste.
Give this one a try. Beautiful color.
Yeah.
Fabulous Granny Smith apple with a little bit of hot buttered toast there. Well, I'm no judge, but I'm happy to give this the award for today. Cheers, Jack.
Cheers.
Great job.
Thank you.
So I'm in the vineyard with Mark Wendenberg, winemaker at Sumac Ridge Estate Winery, and we're talking cool climate whites. In particular, we've got a beautiful grape here growing on the vine. Now, how exactly do you pronounce this one?
Well, the German pronunciation is Gewurtztraminer, and the English would say Gewurtztraminer.
And it only takes one look at these vines to see they look big, old, and tired. Is there a relation? Are these old vines, and does that make a better wine in the end?
Well, this particular vine is approximately 29 to 30 years old, and in general, over time, the vine tends to produce less grapes, but of a slightly better quality.
How can you tell, just by looking at them, if they're ready? Are we close?
Well, we do a couple of things to decide whether they're ready. One of them is we do look at them and taste them, and you can see that these have started to change color. This cluster here has that rosa pink color to it. Aside from looking at them and tasting them, we do an analysis on them. We test the Brix, which is the sugar level, as well as the acid and the pH of the grapes.
And all that will come together harmoniously to let you know when the right time is to pick.
That's the idea.
Is it one of those wines that you want to drink right away? Is it something that's got some longevity to put down in the cellar for a while?
Gewürztraminer is consumed young, when it's young, so basically inside of 2 to 3 years of when it was produced.
Is this a wine that we are ever concerned about having low acidity or high acidity?
In very hot years, the acidity can actually get low on us, but that's not the normal case.
You're going over to a friend's house, you got a bottle of Gewürztraminer. What do you hope they're preparing?
Well, it's in the name actually. Gewürz means spicy in German, so you're looking for spicy foods because the wine actually has a spicy characteristic to it.
That sounds great. I can't help but notice we've got this netting on the grapes. Is everything okay there?
Well, the netting is basically to keep the birds off the grapes.
So Spider-Man's not your vineyard manager?
No, no.
I'm here with Krista Lee McWaters-Bond of Sumac Ridge Estate Winery, and when the topic is BC wine, there's no one better to speak to than her. We're going to talk a little bit about the microclimates that put together this wonderful region and these great wines.
Well, it's interesting, Tom. What makes our region unique in particular is that we have more hours of sunlight than anywhere else in North America. We have higher light intensity than any other growing region in the entire world. And we only get about 10 inches of rainfall down in the southern end of the valley, which is actually the northern tip of the Sonoran Desert. So we are the only official desert in Canada, so it gets extremely hot in the summer. It can get up to 50 degrees, and at that point, nothing is working in the vineyard, not the grapes or the workers. And then as you mentioned, as we break it down into smaller microclimates, here in Summerland, what we've got is we've actually got a dormant volcano. So you've got some volcanic soils that really give it some great minerality minerality. You're going to see more Gewurtztraminer and Chardonnay in this region, whereas up north in Kelowna, maybe some Pinot Noirs, some fantastic Old Vines Riesling that, again, give it that sort of minerality and that stony, flinty characteristic that we're looking for.
It really sounds to me that with all those different microclimates, we could make any type of wine in the world we wanted to.
You're pretty much right. There are so many different varieties that are growing here in the Okanagan. Because we're a new region, we're not governed by laws or tradition. We can kind of try some new things and experiment, and I think what's really is exciting is that we're seeing the quality of the wines elevated every year, and with a harvest such as this year, it's just fantastic. I can't wait to taste the 2009s.
We've learned a lot about British Columbia white wine, how high-altitude viticulture helps to keep crisp acidity and aromatics, how stainless steel fermentation is the method of choice for Sauvignon Blanc, and how oak aging is far more prevalent in making Chardonnay. But most importantly, we've learned that British Columbia has an ideal terroir and climate for producing incredible white wines. While as a wine-growing region, BC might be new on the radar, it is definitely worth checking out.